record here. Okay, so I'm here with Krista Rifoni. Krista, welcome.
Hello, Julie. Wonderful to finally talk to you. I know that we had connected a few months ago, and it's taken us that long in order to connect. So today
Yes,
is an exciting day.
yes, I'm so glad we can connect. I heard from you the first time from a conversation you had with David Bingham. So his name is popping up all the time.
I know. David Bingham is a wonderful human being. He's just very special. I love watching all of his conversations with, everyone. And you can just get something from every conversation, right? And
Yes,
it resonates with your particular story. So I think it's beautiful what he does.
yes. All the sharing, the conversation. It's one of the few channel that I saw
I
that does
have not
that.
seen anything like that, to be honest, on
No,
my
me
on my
neither.
side either.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes complete sense when you talk to David. He's so open and loving and non-judgmental. He almost kind of like opens his arms, and you feel so comfortable to talk to this man. With
Yes.
your deepest spiritual conquest.
Yes. And there's uh at the same time is really uncompromising truth.
Yes, I agree.
So it's the end of the road. There is nothing else to say when you get to that point. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say. It's like,
Yeah, that
yeah,
is it.
yeah,
And when, David was the one that really was the complete catalyst for me with self-realization because, I had started to listen to his videos, and then I went on sort of like this junkie mode where I listened to everything David Bingham had, published out there, from Conscious TV to all the interviews, including the interview that he did with you, I think it was almost a year back. And just one day, and with the death of my father kind of happening at the same time, which I kind of covered in my conversation with him, it was like it all just came together in this beautiful moment where it was all so clear that there is no separate self. There are
yes,
no levels of consciousness. You are already it. There
yes,
is nothing to do. There's nothing to say, that you are it in
yeah,
this eternal moment.
yes, yes. I resonated with your interview for a few different reasons. One of them is the death of your father. There was that in my on my path too.
Really?
Yes, there was that, and there was a few things you mentioned way prior to that. For you, there was this place of despair at some point.
Yes.
So, yes,
Yeah. So I talk about this in my interview with him, but I had I guess I had been a seeker all of my life. And then I got into a point where all the emotional blockages were just pounding down on me, right? And energetically, I think that we all understand what happens in the human condition is that if negative experiences happen to you, the small ones over time, or big traumatic events, and you don't know how to process them and to release that energy, right? Over time, you get to a point where you're like a pressure cooker, and
mm,
that pressure cooker it's either going to blow up or something crazy is going to happen, right? And so that point for me was in my early 20s. I had some childhood trauma. I had just a lot going on energetically. Maybe it was from, some from this life, maybe even previous lives. I don't know. But yes, I went into deep, deep despair. I call that, several years of the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me into the realm of spirituality, which is something that I never was exposed to. And so I went on the path of more of the metaphysical, studying Buddhism, Taoism, anything I could get my hands on. And I don't think that you came from a spiritual background, right?
Yes
Which
and
is,
no. Funny enough, my parents were listening to Ram Dass when I was a child.
yeah.
So probably there was something that got in
Mm-hmm.
consciousness here while these words were appearing, because I remember the feeling of unconditional love and being held in
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah, probably you're right. Probably there was some subconscious knowing that occurred when you were young. I certainly did not have that knowing. There's a great quote from Ron Dass before we get back that's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. He says, spiritual practices are illusions created by illusionists to escape the illusion.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
going back to my story, when I went on the spiritual path, I had all these spiritual practices.
Yes.
You know, my house is filled with every stone you
I
could ever
love how
think
you
of.
say this. My house is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will not tell you how much I have paid for some of these stones. But anyways, I I got into these spiritual practices, and I felt better, right? And I worked through
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my trauma, or I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on this path for several years where I feel like I was looking away from the truth.
Ah,
Like, so, I was looking into energy healing, and I was looking into something outside of me spiritually that could fill this void, this deep, deep void that, sometimes it felt better and sometimes it felt bad again, right? It's
yes.
almost like, and I hear people say this a lot in David Bingham, and I think that maybe you have said this too. It's like you've got it and now you don't.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. I had that after realization, this sense of got it, lost it. So you went through
Yes,
phase of just peaceful being without realizing that it was it. That was that.
yeah, and I do have some things to say about after realization too, because you're right, that does happen after realization as well. But uh, so after my interview with David, I um I have been I have been in this kind of like I got it and then I don't. And it's not all pretty.
No.
It it is some of this is very dark stuff that has been coming up from the depths
Yes.
of the ethers energetically. Um and I think that you had shared with me on your email that it took you 2 years, right, to
Yes.
basically integrate
Yes.
this this knowing that you cannot unsee, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, I mean, for example, there were people that I'm close to in my close circle, right? And it that went into deep, dark nights of the soul
Yes. Me too.
that I was um, very much so connected to, and I could not help them.
Mm,
And when you love someone so much, right? And even with this knowing, there's like this pull to be pulled into their despair or to save them
help.
or to be the healer, right?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
become the role of the healer again.
Yeah.
Did you experience anything like
Yes,
that,
I
Julie?
did. I experienced watching and feeling powerless.
Yes.
utterly powerless, and just meeting the energy that wants to help, need to help.
Yeah.
Why? Where is this coming from? What do I get out of believing I'm a helper?
Yeah.
I get to feel love. I get to feel value. I get connected. I get
Yeah. And
so
it
all of
all
this
kind of comes
stuff
back to that.
comes up, and then you can't turn away from it. There's no way of escaping it.
Yeah.
I feel.
So I feel like the divine being in me manifested these experiences with the people that I love to help me to see that they are not victims and I don't need to heal anyone. I
Yeah.
just need to approach them with compassion and love, unconditional love. Um, because before, when I was on this spiritual path for many, many years, I was, I considered myself like an energy healer, like an intuitive energy healer, whatever, right?
Hmm.
Very woo woo out there. Nothing wrong with it. Um,
And,
but
and
I
and
would
in a way,
jump.
you probably are in a way, because if you are very intuitive, and there's a presence shining through you, then that's it. But it's not
Yeah,
personal. That's the difference. It's not personal.
yeah, exactly, right. And so I would step into that role and I would try to fix people
Mm,
and try to make it okay. I enjoyed that role, enjoyed being needed.
yes.
And with this realization, it was almost like that identity was completely dropped immediately.
Mm,
And after that identity dropped, there was like a deep fear and despair, kind of like what you were saying a little bit earlier, because that was no longer there.
mm,
Does
mm.
that make any
Yes, it
sense?
does. Yes, it's in my experience, realization is the loss of a fixed identity,
Yes.
and those fixed identity, they provide us a kind of a safety of, and also at the same time, it's kind of this program that I was just functioning from is trying to reinstall. Are you sure? And
Are you sure?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure. I want this light. I want this happiness. I want to feel no guilt of happiness.
Yes.
And at the same time, there is compassion, but there is the sense of powerlessness that I can't give this to you
Yes.
as much as I want to. And that's also, in my experience, the revelation is that the mind doesn't know what to do. So it may
Hmm.
think that it's going to be helpful to say something, but it's not in
Yeah.
reality. So it's to bowing down to this. It's like the mind is bowing down to the divine, like I don't know, I can't.
Yeah. The answer is not in the mind. It's
No.
never in the mind. But when you step into these roles that you've been playing for all your life, right, or many years, like you said, when you lose that identity, you're kind of left with that fear of, I almost want to say it's like a fear of God, the inner God within you or the inner divine within you. Um,
Yes.
because I don't know if you went through this as well, but there were times when I was very afraid because I would look around and energetically I I could see that this was like a dream. And it felt like a dream, like even
Yes.
just walking, let's say
Yes.
my dog or whatever, it was like a dream. And I feel like when I'm awake, it's a dream. When I'm asleep, it's a dream.
Oh,
What
yes.
is this?
Yes. Yes. There is that too. Yes.
So what did you do with that, Julie?
I feel it's grounding in the body that was
Hmm.
really, really supportive to feel the body, that it feels like this light is kind of a beam of light is received and it has to drop in the body. So the grounding, like feeling, because I went through a period where I felt I don't even have a body. I'm
Yes.
transparent.
Yes.
Yes, and it felt like for a while, and then it started to feel more grounded as I met these energy, these fear. And
Yes.
that's where it started to, I feel, to express through us this authentic joy.
Do you feel like this process of integration is basically releasing a lot of the, I'm going to call it emotional residue that we've had from these roles, and kind of that along with just like dropping the attachment
Yes, I
to these roles?
yes, and also I feel it's a um link, but that's just my intuition, so I'm not really knowledgeable in anything, but in my direct experience it felt like linked with the survival.
Yeah.
um and a true authentic expression of ourselves is pure energy of creativity
Yeah.
without conflict of is it right, is it wrong, how am I being seen. And
Yeah.
that provides the safety of surviving here as well, because you know you are fully whole and autonomous.
So it's almost like when you feel that fear, you go back to that knowing, right? And you kind of rest in that knowing and that love, that that undertone of love. I definitely, although I've had these dark experiences, I've also had a lot of incredible and other amazing experiences. If you look at my daily life, I feel like I have shifted so much in a short period of time, even after talking to David Bingham, where it was almost like I keep dropping aspects of my ego rapidly. And
It
just
accelerates. It feels like
yeah,
it
every day
accelerates.
there's something new to work on, right?
Yes.
I'll tell you, last night I had something come up with my son, who's 9 years old. And I took him to soccer practice and we were driving back, and he was in a bad mood, and he kind of just started to attack me out of nowhere, right? And started saying all of these things. And I was resting in the infinite being. I was saying, okay, I'm just going to be neutral for now. He's got to be going through something, right? And I was non-reactive. And then he said something to me that ignited an emotion deep within me that triggered I will call a childhood trauma.
Mm. Hmm.
And I don't know how he could have like said the words that he said, but he said something so specific that it brought me back to being a 9-year-old girl,
Mm.
and basically feeling like I didn't belong, like I was excluded, that nobody loved me, that feeling of aloneness and not
Yes.
fitting in, right?
Yes.
And so he said that to me, and automatically just this energy of like pure anger and sadness and rage, it just like waved over me, and I lost control of my emotions, which rarely happens. And and then I started to just bawl, just like crying uncontrollably. And then he told me, he said, okay, well, this is really what's going on. These children at school are bullying me. They won't be my friend. They're excluding me. They're making fun of me. And it was the same scenario that had
Mm.
happened to me at the
Hmm.
same age. It was almost like that my son was, I had manifested, the divine being had manifested like a mirror of what had happened to me, or this energy to
It's
come up and just explode. Does that make
or
sense?
the pattern, because what I see more and more, the patterns,
Yes.
repeating the same thing over and over and over again.
So it's almost like daily life will present to you what needs to be released in order to get to that place of, frequency of joy and love, and, all of those higher frequencies. I think you almost have to peel away all of this ego and the,
Yes, or meet everything exactly as it is and even embrace that fear. I remember going through this deep sadness, I don't belong,
yeah,
to truly sit with that sad energy that I don't belong. And that for me was really supportive. It's one of the things that it's delicate, because in reality, there really is nothing to do.
yeah,
And nothing is happening for me
yeah,
or to me. And at the same time, if we evacuate that part of meeting the pain, it doesn't, in me, it didn't feel like an authentic freedom. And I wanted the whole thing.
yeah,
So these deeper thing will present themselves.
yeah, things
It's
that,
my experience. They did present themselves for me. At some point, I also needed this energy to be more masculine. I remember the
really,
feeling of not belonging, and I was like, okay, that's enough now. We've played enough. That's enough. There was
yeah,
this feminine energy of embracing, and I got tired of embracing. I was like, that's enough. I don't want this. Sorry, and allowing that too. Allowing that energy. I don't want this. I'm tired of that.
yes, time to let go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You but I think that you touch upon something really important, is sitting in those emotions, right? What is
Feeling.
I think Rhonda Byrne says to like open your arms and welcome the energy, right? Instead of like, I need to release this, it
No,
needs to
no,
go
no. Yeah,
away.
yeah, yeah.
There
Yeah.
is no release. There is
Receiving.
a receive and a natural flow of things, right?
Yes, without an agenda. I think that's the beautiful opening from realizing open, pure awareness.
Yeah.
It's without an agenda. Let me just feel this and be curious and listen deeply.
Yes.
And sometimes I would I would inquire into what's the need beneath it, the need for approval. Oh, it's still here. I see you. Instead of saying, oh, why is it still here? Oh,
Yeah.
it's here. Okay, I see you. I think this is ongoing.
Yeah.
This deep listening, because then it frees the self-expression in the human experience.
Yeah. So this, I like how you say that you do a deep listening. So um I do something similar, but I have started to, I guess, speak to the inner divine being. Um, and I've tried to incorporate like talking to the inner divine being constantly and asking for guidance, even though this divine being is part of me, part of you. It's almost like a way to access the inner wisdom
Mm.
or the
Mm-hmm.
body of wisdom. Have you
Yes,
tried that at all?
I spoke a lot to the inner child.
Yeah.
That was more the vulnerable energy that that felt unloved, unseen, unheard. And that's something that came in your conversation with David that I also had, and a lot of us have misunderstood.
Yes.
This it's like I feel it's like they are revealed in awareness to be acknowledged fully.
Yeah.
And in my experience, when we can be that open so that they can come back whenever they need,
Mhm.
that's when they truly rest.
I love that. And that's so true. When my in my spiritual journey, I did a lot of what they call like shadow work, right? Of the inner child work. But this with this realization, it's different. It's a letting go of the I, the separate self, right? And becoming that oneness with all things and seeing the connection of all things together, and that there is no there is no preference between good or bad experiences in the
Yes,
divine being.
even the spiritual experience are not enough anymore.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, that's something you spoke in your interview, like deep spiritual experience. And then you didn't mention that it was not enough, but I heard in what came here was, yeah, when that even that is not enough anymore.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's
it's
like,
not.
yeah,
I my deep experiences. I mean, I've seen crazy things. I've felt all angels and all of those things, and I've done energy work, and I even saw like an entity leave a body, and just crazy stuff, right? And I think one thing that I struggled with in the beginning of letting go of that energy healer identity was saying, kind of like understanding that that's all part of the world of non duality, right?
yeah,
And it's okay if you don't understand everything, because I was always trying to understand it all. And
hmm,
from the standpoint of like self-realization, I don't think our mind can even comprehend this convoluted universe.
no, can talk about it.
Yeah, we can go down a rabbit hole and you know have all sorts of theories of, okay, well, why
Yeah,
are we even here? What
yes.
what is this
What is this?
what is this purpose? I mean, I see that it's a dream, but why?
We're experiencing and communicating. It's
Yeah. So I
inevitable.
struggled
Yeah,
a little bit with that too.
yeah, yeah. I also feel into when you're mentioning oneness, and I feel the expansion of that is even no preference for the personal mode and the impersonal mode.
Yeah.
It's a blend or fluid access,
Yeah.
an expanded, just being aware that it's available and there is nothing wrong with it. So
Yeah.
it transform into what if I forget to,
Yeah.
oh, I'm completely immersed in this, and I'm the person here, and it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. And kind of resting in that knowing, right?
Yes, that it's not lost, even if it's forgotten, like a period of just a period of time. There's no nothing. It's not seen as wrong, that either, or
Yeah.
bad. Even there, good and bad, there is.
There are no good and bads.
Yeah, it feels like there is, because when there is a preference for oneness, it's still kind of the separate self is trying to rest in oneness.
Yeah.
So it's even, oh, there is access to silence, peace, and then there is personal implication and working and doing
Yeah.
things. so that our human expression is not just sitting in silence, it's just moving around in the world and participating, and that's how it feels here though.
Yes. I totally agree. You know, I left that conversation with David just being so clear that I didn't need to do or change anything really, although I have dropped many aspects, dropping things of the ego, but at the same time, I felt that it is possible to be like, let's say, a mother and a wife and, work a job and be in this
Yeah.
society and operate from this oneness. It's
Yes.
possible.
Yes. Yes.
And to bring that energy into your daily life and
Yes.
whoever you interact with or touch, you just, I guess, emit the frequency of peace and love.
Yes, and without even without any idea of how this energy may show up, sometimes it's just full of humor and full of laughter, and it's just how it shows up.
Yeah,
I can be very seriously involved in an argument with my partner, and at the same time, at some point, I may just burst laughing because it doesn't
is
feel serious. And I won't, if I mean, I don't want, maybe I will, maybe I won't. It's not planned. It doesn't have like a fixation of it has to be, I have to emanate peace and presence, because who does
yeah,
that? And why would I need to effort doing that? At some point, I became aware of, well, the space is holding itself. I don't have to
exactly.
hold the space. There's no one holding it.
Yeah, you mean you think that you have to like you said hold the space for a particular
Yes.
situation or whatever,
Yeah.
and then even if you're involved in a role and you're playing the role or of the argument like you were saying and you're involved in energetically in it, at some point the awareness is going to click in, right? And then you're just going to see it for exactly what it is.
Yes, and sometimes even the awareness is there and the engagement in the argument is still there. Like, there's this Julie, she needs to be listened to, and I need my space now, and it's my turn. And but it's
Yeah,
not a conflict, it's not wrong.
no,
It's a I feel it's part of our humanness is totally allowed. At the same time, there is this deep content,
yeah,
silence. It's so beautiful, and that's ongoing. There's kind of a refinement, ongoing refinement.
yeah, I think that's a very good word that I've heard, I think, a couple of times is refinement, right? And over time, even though time does not exist, right?
Yes.
You you slowly tweak things.
Yes.
Speaking of time, one thing that I experience a good bit is what I would call, and I think Eckhart Tolle mentions this too, is the eternal now,
Yes.
the timelessness.
Yes. 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 The timelessness, and have you touched into the illusion that we may have the impression that I'm going over there, but I'm always here.
Yes,
It's always here. So even places lose their gradation. This is better than that.
right.
It's such a relief to everywhere be here.
I feel I've had, experiences where I almost feel like this human body is both the young girl and the old woman at the same time meeting in the eternal now as a late 30s woman. You know what I mean? it's almost like you're all of those things all at once.
Yes, yes. Like I heard someone say our multi-dimensional being.
Yes, I think that that's exactly what it is. And it's it's not only in necessarily in meditation. I feel this I guess it's a tapping into this energy or this dimension. I don't know what you want to call it, multi-dimensional energy, where I can just feel that this being in this body it's all of those stages. It's timeless.
At
It
the
never
same
changes.
time.
It's the
Yes,
same.
yes, yes.
So it's pretty incredible. And even with my meditation practices, I I haven't been meditating as much as I used to anymore.
No, yeah, there's no need to find anything. So
Yeah. What is the meditating the meditator is meditate or
yes,
what is you know what I'm trying to say?
yes. Who is
What is the
meditating?
meditator meditating on
Yes.
specific? What is
It
what do you want to achieve here?
yeah. It feels like meditation is just happening
Yes.
as life is unfolding.
I think that, you can just the good thing about meditation is that it's a good space just to kind of access that stillness. If you are going through an active mind,
Hmm.
sometimes when I do meditate, I'll say there is awareness of an active mind.
Yes, yes,
And then I just watch this mind and it's all over the place.
yes.
And
Sometimes, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and then you center it and then everything slows down and
Mm.
then the awareness kind of emerges from the background to the foreground, right?
Yes, yeah. A few other thing that yes, I did wrote a few notes before we spoke. I was interested in hearing. I'm gonna share what I felt when my dad passed.
Yes, I'd love to hear.
Um, I always had a very, very close relationship with my dad. There was like an energetic bonding there. Something was really strong. And my dad was he suffered his whole life. He was alcoholic, and I used to feel that I was here to help him.
Yeah.
So I was attached to him being better. And of course, as a child, I needed safety. So dad needs to be better so that I can survive, obviously,
Yeah.
because the danger was obvious for my safety as a young child, seeing him how he would throw wood in the fire and he was drunk and like the house could
Hmm.
have burned and there were things like scary things.
Yeah.
And I was always in a state of, he was always there in my mind. I was worried about him.
Hmm.
And I tried to not be like my whole life. I really tried. And I could let go of trying to help him at some point.
Hmm.
But still, there was worrying.
Yeah.
And he even told me, he was very smart. My dad was very, and he was deep. He was searching for truth. He was reading Krishnamurti when I was young.
Yeah.
And at some point, he told me that my worrying about him was selfish because what I was looking for was comfort for myself. That was true and hard
Yeah.
to hear at the same time because I was angry with him, how he was, and I was worried because of that. And so there was a huge thing. And a big identity was that I was the daughter of my dad, and I was a lonely child and an only child.
Yeah. You were the daughter of an alcoholic, right?
Yes, so
And
that
so
was the
you
thing.
wore that
That
as your
identity,
yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, and I needed to help. I needed to be there. I needed to do something. All of that, and the worry was constant, worrying, worrying. And when he died, I remember walking in his apartment that was in a state of someone suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It was not clean. There was a lot of cigarettes everywhere. It was really, really sad. And I remember the feeling of total, utter failure. And that was my deepest unconscious story, that I am a failure. I failed. And walking his apartment and feeling that started something that I called a despair and hopelessness. And I was not, I didn't, I was not on a spiritual path. I was not self-realized. Nothing had happened regarding that. I was just meeting this deep hopelessness.
Yeah.
It took the shape of different conflict at work
Mm-hmm.
with people, feeling of being misunderstood, unheard, unloved. It was like so present that it was creating a lot of conflict in my life.
Yeah.
And it was growing and growing and growing until there was a meeting with someone that showed that recognized that she didn't listen, that recognized that I really needed to be heard regarding a conflict during a group meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I was muted during a team meeting
Yeah.
while I was expressing a conflict towards the person who muted me. And I didn't realize, and I continued to speak into the void during that
Wow.
meeting. It's the worst thing that I ever felt. I never felt so utterly unheard
And excluded, right?
and
Too.
excluded. It was
Yes.
very, very, very distressing. And it came with all these energy that were already present of hopeless distress. And while I spoke with that person after, she mentioned, I really see you, I hear you, and I love you. And it came from the place of truth.
Yeah.
And that started something opened up in myself, a lot of healing and love and unconditional love. And a few months later, there was realization.
Wow.
So there's clearly something we don't control here on a personal level.
Yeah. You had to, it's almost like we all have our own story, right? And the story unfolds exactly as it needs to. Julie, I will tell you, we have a very, very similar story with our dads, almost identical.
Oh,
My dad was also an alcoholic,
oh.
and he was the most simple, loving, wonderful man that came from his own childhood trauma because he lost both of his parents by the age of 9.
Uh-huh.
And he never really dealt with all of that. And
Mm.
so he numbed his emotions with alcohol. And being a child, you know, it of an alcoholic, you love your father so much. Just like you
Yes.
said, I
Yes.
was just like you. That was the first person I tried to heal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that kind of put me into that role of the healer.
Mm.
And in the end, I there was so much. So I don't know if I don't think I mentioned this in my interview with David Bingham, but I was living in South Carolina with my family, my 2 kids, my husband, and my parents were down here in Florida. And so I was meditating on a mountain trip, and I just knew from the depths of my soul that I needed to go to Florida. Like
Mm.
it had to happen, and it had to happen quick. My dad was sick, and he had been sick for a number of years, not from the alcohol, but that had caused complications in his heart. And so my partner, who was incredible, he agreed with me to just quit his great job and pluck our kids out of school and move to Florida. And so I spent 8 months with my parents, which I had been separated from for 20 years.
Mm.
And the alcohol was always part of the story. It
Yes.
was part of the pain. And I walked into all of that pain that I had left kind of at a distance for 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And so it brought up all sorts of stuff for me, childhood stuff when I made this move. But I felt that it was time to slay the dragon. It was time to make peace with my father. And so essentially that's what happened.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And when I at some point very close to when before he passed, and when I was listening to David Bingham and all those things, I saw that that he had been trapped in his own trauma, and it had nothing to do with me, right?
Mm. Mm.
And that
Yeah.
all I could do was love him and have compassion and forgive.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when Jesus says, "Forgive them, they know not what they do,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because kind of like you, I had held that, we'll say that badge of and it was a secret badge, right? I am a daughter of an alcoholic, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so I think that was very integral in my healing. And but when he passed, it was just this knowing and this peace in the
Mm.
room. And I knew that he was okay. I knew he was a part of me. And I knew that, there, all these things, all these illusions that we go through in our life and all this pain, it's, it's not necessary.
No. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that about your father. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
There's something with the forgiveness, the authentic forgiveness.
Yes.
I'm not talking about, oh yes, I forget. No, the authentic. There's something deeper and authentic about that forgiveness that you just shared. And I feel there's something there with the light shining through, or yes, or I don't know how energetically, there's something energetically connected. I even knew when he
Yes.
passed. And
Yeah.
it's
It's
kind of
almost
as if
like,
I was carrying his suffering.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I look back at my dad's life, yes, he was an alcoholic, but I think in my child mind, I blew things out. It was, misconstrued his whole life, right? Maybe
Yes.
he was just a simple guy that, liked to drink whiskey, or,
Yes.
and I, in my mind, I was like, oh, he's got this big problem,
Yes, yes. I felt the same at some point, as if this had taken the whole identity. But it wasn't
yes,
that. He was a teacher. He was a good teacher. There was like he had good moments. He went for camping at the beach, and all that started to re-emerge. There was not just that.
yeah, but when you're in that darkness, that sometimes you only see it, right? And
Yes.
so, like you, when I completely forgave my father, and I guess I kind of released that part of me,
Mm.
I saw that, you know what, he was such a good man, and he did so many good things in his life, and he lived in a very simple way. But sure, he had his childhood trauma, and he had his way of numbing. I mean, some of us may even be looking at our phone too much to numb. Maybe
Yes.
alcohol's not your numbing.
Thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, there's no reason not to forgive anyone for anything. We're all just human trying to make sense of all of this, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. We will have to connect again because I know you have to go. You have
Yes,
you
that would
have
be
to go
wonderful.
somewhere. And to end, I think something that came through is I feel there's something with true forgiveness
Yes.
about not only other people in our life, important figure, primarily mom and dad or caretaker, and ourself, our own ideas of ourselves, or it's kind of there's something linked with that love, that deep love.
Yeah, because when you forgive, when you truly forgive, it's almost like you're removing a big, I'll call it like a blockage, maybe on the heart chakra, we'll just say, right? And you're opening up to receive that unconditional love that's already inside of you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I know that forgiveness is talked a lot about in like A Course of Miracles and all
yes.
of the spiritual texts. So I think you're on to something there.
Yeah, it felt like that with my dad, that there was a true
Yeah,
forgiveness and we celebrated after he passed, and there was like this huge love came through for him.
yeah. Nothing but love, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that I don't my mom and myself, because I was an only child.
Oh, you
Um,
too.
you too. Wow. So you understand as an only child, it's a little bit different of a dynamic, right?
Yes.
So when he passed, there's no negativity at all towards my father anymore.
Mm.
Between my mother or I, we only see the love.
Mm.
And that is a great gift
Yeah.
because all of that darkness and all of that despair and those negative experiences and this big thing that we have blown up for many, many years, it was just gone and there's only love.
Wow. Yeah, that's a blessing, a grace.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I'm going to let you go, and it would be lovely to meet again and
That
speak
would be
some
great.
more.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank
Wonderful to
you.
talk to you.
I'll let you know when that's online.
Sounds good. Take care.
Bye bye.